Hi everyone, back in the kitchen with another video on technique fundamentals. There is only one way to armbar, but there's a lot of different positions to execute this from. Today we're going to break down some of the fundamentals behind the armbar and how it actually works, and then discuss some of the positions that we can get the armbar from. Hi, I'm Desiree Lussier-Levesque, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach, competitor, and Judoka. Welcome to my channel, The Purple Belt Diaries. Joining me today is my lovely assistant, either Michael, Steve, or Matt. We'll do a poll later on to make a final decision on his name. But for now, I guess we'll just continue to refer to him as my assistant. So what is an armbar? The armbar in both Judo and Jiu Jitsu is the same. It involves applying pressure on the elbow joint in order to cause stress on the ligaments within it. Enough pressure and enough stress on those ligaments can actually tear, which is why it's important to tap early, tap often, okay? Some of the essential elements of the armbar is not just applying pressure to the arm at the elbow, which needs to be done in a specific point, in a specific way, in order to apply the pressure in the opposite direction that the elbow bends so that it puts the strain on those ligaments. For this to happen, both the wrist and the shoulder need to be secured, and the position that we're in is going to help us do that. So by holding onto the wrist or placing our feet in a certain place or our legs in a certain place, it's going to help us maintain control of this shoulder, control of this wrist, so that we can apply the pressure on the elbow itself. Oftentimes when we first learn the armbar and we're learning from the guard position, we're told that we need to have the thumb pointed upwards at the top of the hand and that we need to apply pressure this way. Now the thumb doesn't always need to be at the top of the hand, it can be turned this way as long as we're applying pressure in the proper direction and this wrist and this shoulder are secured. And we're going to cover that a little bit more today. So now that we've got an idea of some of the basics, let's go ahead and see how that's executed from a variety of common positions that we might find ourselves in during rolls or newaza or grappling. One of the more common variations on the armbar is one learned very early on, which is from the guard. Now, when you're in the guard, one thing I prefer to do is try to keep the collar sleeve. That way I can keep my opponent broken down and I can keep the arm in. When you execute this move, you can bring the legs up and around, and that's going to make it easier. And I'm not going to give explicit direction on how to get into the specific positions, because this can be done a number of different ways. But essentially, you have a high guard, you're pinning down with this leg, you pivot, keeping this across so that you keep control of this arm here at the wrist. This is your wrist control. You want to keep things nice and tight. When this comes up, this is going to go over the head. Now, I want to point out that there are differences in jiu-jitsu and judo between the rule sets on whether or not you can push on the face. And so in judo, you may not push on the face. In jiu-jitsu, you can. So here in this position, the arm is between my legs and the elbow must be above my hip line. If my opponent is able to posture up and pulls the arm down so that the elbow is now below my hip line, I have lost this armbar. I'm gonna turn this way. So now you can see my feet. I'm squeezing my knees together, I'm pulling the arm in, and I'm pushing down on the back with my heels, pulling my opponent into me so that way he cannot posture up. I need him down and I need that shoulder control. Actually, we don't really need this arm, do we? Get that out the way so we can kind of focus on this. Now, I'm keeping close control of the wrist. And now I'm going to, while keeping the wrist tight to me, lift my hips while pushing down with my heels into my opponent's elbow, applying pressure there. One of the most common mistakes that I often see when doing this move and why it doesn't tend to work for some beginners is that while they are pushing with their hips and their legs, they are not keeping the wrist control and not keeping the wrist pinned down to their chest. Another reason that this doesn't work sometimes, or armbar in general, is that the pressure isn't being applied in the correct direction. Let's stop for a moment and talk a bit about the correct direction to apply the pressure for an armbar to be successful. So we've secured the wrist, we've secured the shoulder, and a lot of times when we're first learning, we're told that the thumb should be facing upwards. What this means is that this elbow is directly over the hip line here, so that it's very easy for us to apply pressure. We learn early on that if someone turns it to the side, that's a defense. And it is to an extent. However, not entirely, right? Let's get back into our armbar position. If they are like this, and we have the elbow, and we're pushing, and they turn their wrist, you can also push it to the side to make sure that you're getting the pressure in the proper direction. So don't lose your armbar just because someone turned their hand. You still need to apply that pressure, but if you can't apply it like this, use your thigh, apply it like this. Like I said, there's only one way to armbar, but you can do it from a variety of positions. Another variation from guard for the armbar would be if your opponent places their arm on the mat and you are able to swing under the arm with your arm. Now there's a chance they could just pull their arm right back out. That's fine, you're back to square one. But in this instance, if you can, feed this lapel to your hand. So now you've trapped their arm and you're pulling them in. You can grab the other side of the lapel like this, open your legs and shrimp to the side. Once you've turned to the side, you can bring this leg up, keeping your foot on the hip. Keep this wrist trapped with your arm underneath your armpit or to your chest, and then you're going to be able to apply pressure to the elbow or the shoulder here, right? So this is a very strong armbar. Another variation would be the belly down armbar or the flash armbar, and this is executed sometimes coming from the mount position if someone attempts to bench press you off, or sometimes if you're not able to pull off the armbar as is. In the instance of the belly down armbar, what is going to happen is our opponent is maybe posturing up, or they push us off in the bench press and we still have that arm. So instead of trying to finish like this, we're going to hold on to the arm and we're going to roll over onto our bellies. So once you've rolled onto your belly, you can still keep that secured. You can also adjust, if you can, to put this foot behind the back of the neck and keep control of that wrist, hip into it. That one's very strong, very powerful, and it tends to work out pretty well. One more variation, because again, remember that like the triangle, the armbar works best when we're able to cut this angle. So say, for example, you're rolling with somebody big, you had the armbar, but now you can't cut your angle because they postured up or they're pushing you this way. One thing I like to do is I like to put this foot underneath the neck and secure this here. I still have the armbar. There's a chance they could actually choke on the ankle, but I've got the armbar here, and again, same principle. Feet around the head, around the neck, arm is right here, and hip into it. Let's take a look at the mount. Mount is one of the better positions that you can have in this sport. Now, there's lots of ways to do this from the mount. I'm going to start with the most basic one that's shown typically in fundamentals classes. This is also a word of caution to those who just think they're going to use strength to just shove off someone smaller. They might take your arm with them. So try to use, even if you're the larger individual, try to use some other techniques in order to maneuver out of this. We have a high mount. We take the arm. We're coming up under them somehow, and we're bringing this other leg around the head, and we're falling back. There's a number of ways that you can specifically maneuver into this. The basic gist is that you wind up in this kind of position where now you are no longer in mount, you're on the side, you are squeezing your knees shut, and you have the arm and you're going to lay back with it. The same principles apply where you need to keep the thumb up, or you can press to the side. You need to have this shoulder secured, which you're doing with your legs, potentially straightening this leg here in order to give more pressure on the person's face they can't turn into you. And you're going to squeeze your knees together so that you keep that shoulder steady. All right? And then you lean back. Now, some other things that you can do from mount, if they are pushing this arm up and into you, or when you took mount, you kept the arm, you can scoot up, bring this around, use your arm, hip in to this arm. When it comes to the mount, the armbar is generally not my preferred submission because of the risk that I take with it, or because it means that somebody's probably shoved me off of them, and so I'm just pulling a Hail Mary armbar. Everyone has different preferences, and you might actually enjoy the armbar from the mount. So again, thanks everyone for joining me. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please check out some of my other content. Maybe share it with some others that might also find it useful. If you have anything to add, or maybe just want to talk about your favorite position to armbar from, go ahead and drop a comment down below. If there's anything else you want to see, also please drop a comment down below. I know there's been some other suggestions and I'm working on those too. Please don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe even that notification bell. Also, for those of you who don't know, I am an affiliate with Grapple Like a Girl BJJ. You often see me wearing their rash guards in my videos. They're a women-owned company in the United States, and you can use code Desiree Lussier in order to get a 10% off discount at both their Etsy shop or by clicking the link below at their website. Thanks for watching.